All right, let's call the meeting to order then. And let's have roll call.
Jill, you're muted.
Okay, Agnes Varnarski,
Present.
Dana Syvertson,
Here.
Pete Hahn. He's muted.
I don't see him.
I do, it says Hahn. There he is. Pete Hahn,
Here.
thank
There
you.
we go.
John Comish,
Here,
Ed Madden,
Present.
is that a yes?
Yes, present.
Thank you. Seth Marcus,
here.
I'm Jill Moscow, all are present. We have a quorum.
Okay, then let's move on
Talking to the speaker.
to approval of minutes of the board meeting of August 13th, 2020.
I'll make the motion that the minutes that were so well done by Jill, as always, be approved.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes
Thank you.
approved. Okay, let's move on to old business, the volunteer work days and the seed collection Wednesdays. So our last workday was canceled due to the rain. We were supposed to meet at Tully Park. And so we plan on meeting at Tully Park for the next workday, which will be on the 20th of September. Before we canceled, we met at Hillcrest Lake. And our future volunteer work days will probably be at the slough. I wanted to ask you if anybody would be interested in an extra work day this Sunday since the weather's supposed to be perfect. Maybe just a call out to our regular volunteers, even if it's a shorter version, like 2.5 hours. On the other side of the slough, there's just a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I'd be interested.
Would that be in the morning or afternoon?
In the morning.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be out of town.
I couldn't make it in the morning, but I could in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm
Well, let's see
working in the
what-
morning.
What's that, Peter?
The 13th,
Yeah,
at what time?
Peter's working. Like 9 to 11:30, I was thinking, or 9 to 11.
Yeah, I think I could probably make that.
Is that AM or PM?
AM.
Oh,
Maybe you should try a PM one and see how that goes.
I don't know.
I can
Yeah.
make that one.
If I can make a little comment about the work days too. We had this, Agnes and I had this conversation about the rain, and I think it reflects a sort of a new sensibility that makes a lot of sense. And that is, my first reaction is, what a bunch of wimps. We used to work in all conditions. And then she reminded me that the disturbance that you do to the soil is worse than getting wet. And all the weeds and all the stuff that you kick up out of that disturbance to the soil because it's wet and you're trotting over it with lots of people, she's absolutely right. So I think canceling it, even though there wasn't a tremendous amount of rain, was probably the best idea. And so I think moving forward, that's going to be your policy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much rain, but it rained for a significant amount of time. Everything was very saturated and it would have caused a lot of disturbance.
So you're not wimps?
We're not wimps.
No, we're still wimps, but
Yeah.
Before we proceed, I'm not seeing anybody. I'm just seeing the agenda. Is that what we want?
I think there should be a setting there that's called grid view.
Or if you go to the very bottom, participants, there's some options there on the up menu. You may have to move your mouse all the way down to trigger the bar.
Yeah, that doesn't do it.
Share screen, is that what?
No,
Share screen?
we're on a share screen.
I mean, I saw you and it's all right. I don't want to delay the meeting.
If you scroll your cursor to the top of your window where you see yourself, presumably there should be some options there as far as how many windows you can see. There's like a grid view where everybody shows up then.
Yeah, well, I'm not getting grid view out of this, but
You got to put your cursor over your image, Joe. over your video. And then it'll show up top.
Oh, there we are. Okay, much nicer. Thank you.
Let's see.
Yeah, that's all right.
All right, I see it now.
She
Thank
sees
you.
everybody now, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Well-
So then are we gonna do that on Sunday?
Well, I think it's probably a matter of who would be interested in doing it, right?
Seth, me, you, and maybe we just reach out to the base, just a few people.
Does anybody have any objections to doing that?
No, just can't attend it.
Okay, we'll put an email out there for volunteers and CC everybody on it.
Yeah, just if anybody has some time on Sunday morning. Okay. Next is the Prospect Heights Public Library Park District events.
Okay, this Saturday is the first bird walk. There are 7 people signed up for it. There's 7 people signed up for the one in 2 weeks at the start of Prairie Week as well. Marcy at the Park District is very happy with all the response to virtually everything we're doing. So that's good. Mary Lou's excited about it, and hopefully we'll have some good weather. There's a chance of rain, so that's undetermined. The ComEd tour is on the following Sunday. That's the start of Prairie Week. That will be from 9 to 10. That's what's
That's what
listed,
it's
9 to
listed
10.
as, but I don't know if that's enough
Right.
time.
And there are 7 people signed up for that as well. So there's interest in that. That one might grow in size. Anybody who's around and available to participate in that Prairie tour. What we saw at the SLU tour was that the group was large and it sort of fragmented. And so I stayed towards the back there with Ed,
We split it up.
and
A little
it
bit.
almost became like 2 tours, but at least everybody was taken care of with, some information.
People just showed up, I think, that didn't even
Mhm.
register. So
Correct.
that's where we got a little bit more people, but we
Mhm.
tried to space it out as best we could, especially along the walk. I would just go off trail and then just have everybody. So I think we split it up pretty well, social distance.
Okay, so unless there's any other comment or discussion about that,
Yeah, I would offer to do a press release for that.
yeah. Okay, I'll
Oh,
follow up with you, Ed.
What did you
Okay,
say,
yeah.
Ed? I didn't hear you.
I'll do a press release.
I still
yeah.
can't hear you.
Can everyone else hear me?
You're a little muted, Ed.
You're muffled.
Right.
He's gonna do a press release for
Oh,
that, Joe.
press release. They got it. Thank you.
Anyone understand sign language?
Yeah.
Only
read
one.
this. Okay, so Ed, I think we also need, you and I need to have a discussion about other press releases for the other events that are coming up.
Yeah.
So we have all of Prairie Week stuff. We have Trisha Becky coming up. That's our Nature Speaks. That's the next one. And that's the 29th of September, I believe.
Mhm.
That's a Zoom presentation. But then we also have, we could lump that together in terms of a press release with Doug Tallamy and Gavin Finney as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's worthy of a press release, and maybe now's the time to start theorizing that.
Well, yeah, and I would probably, it would behoove us to do kind of a comprehensive press release on this, because it's just hard to get one thing sent in and get them to print and then another one and another one. But yeah, let's talk separately on that and come up with a strategy. But I'm thinking a comprehensive one, just tied in and around Prairie Week, will be effective.
Okay. All right, I'll follow up with you then after the meeting. Illinois, that leads us to Illinois Prairie Week is the last topic. That email going out to announce all those events collectively is just about ready to go out. And again, we have the start of it is the ComEd tour on the 19th. We have our workday on the 20th, the seed collection on the 23rd, and the bird walk on the 26th. And Agnes will be giving prairie presentations, talks at all those events. She doesn't know that yet. So unless anybody else has got any other comments on that, that's it for that.
Okay, all right, new business, Hillcrest Lake update. Well, I thought I'd turn it over to John just to mention what he thinks about it.
It's going really well. So the most recent thing we've done is herbicided the space in between the first portion of the pollinator park planting, and then and connected it now with the shoreline restoration and all the planting over there. Agnes and Dana spent extra time there planting additional plants in the previously herbicided areas, so it's filled out really nicely. The plants are doing great. This rain is really nice. It kind of takes the burden of watering them every day off of everybody's hands. So
Your hands. Yeah.
so that's really nice. And it's coming with the connection. We've staked out a new, just an extension of the walking path in there. We've had a resident request some lake access for putting a paddle boat in. We actually discussed that prior to that. And so we do, in these two areas, we have two little areas where there could be boat access for people. We're leaving some open shore, like plenty of open shore, maybe too much, I don't know. We'll figure that out once it starts growing. And so far, all good positive feedback that I've heard.
It's been really nice. I think we've done a lot since this started, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, the rapport with the residents is I think at an all-time high, accumulating in the night that residents asked us for car maintenance for their cars, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other comments or commission or questions or anything else about the lake?
We still got money to burn in the budget for that, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, we do.
We should start talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, what we could start working on is the signage. We did have a really nice conversation with the residents. Agnes can tell you about that. They had some thoughts about signage and information that might be available there. Go ahead.
Well, one of the residents that I was talking to was saying that she gets approached all the time about, what birds can you see here, and what sort of animals. And she keeps talking to residents about the birds. I assume she's a birder, but she suggested, that she was even thinking of maybe leaving out some pamphlets for people because she's talking to so many people. And I thought that was a pretty neat idea. How you have sort of like one of those book houses where you have a pamphlet house, and then you seasonally add information about what bird species, like if you have during migration, all the waterfowl that you can see, or all of the things that you can, and that can be changed, and people can just pick up a pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. I thought immediately of Peter. Maybe you would be inclined to make us like some sort of a birdhouse looking vehicle to put on a post where we could actually put informational things in.
Which would have to be waterproof.
Right.
I love that idea.
I will try to build something.
Okay, cool. We did too, Seth, and I mean we probably talked to those people for
At least a half an hour.
at least a half an hour, and they had lots of. I mean, the boat launch was one of the things that they were talking about. They were really interested in.
Well, because that's where they usually do it,
Mhm.
and so they just wanted to make sure that they have some access there.
We also had another resident who cut down a giant tree And then he took the stumps that are probably 30 to 24 inches high, and he's sort of placed them around the bank of the lake and made all these like seating areas, which is pretty cool. And so I think that's another way to incorporate, resident participation. Sometimes the ideas are probably not going to be appropriate at all, and we're going to have to be ready for that. But so far there's been some really good ideas come out of the neighborhood there. There's really nice feedback.
It's like they're taking ownership with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you read that paper that I sent this morning, I mean, that was like the key feature there is, looking towards sustainability of the project, and all the rest of that is getting residential buy-in and ownership. And I think, like I was saying in the conversation, that this is real different than the ComEd Prairie, as the startup, and everything else about it. It's real different. So I think we're on the right path.
One thing I would kind of recommend too, in addition to having written pamphlets, having kind of some green information available as well. Where any signage we have out there could have a QR code on it that people could just scan with their smartphone and play back, perhaps off the PHNRC website, some pre-recorded information as well. Helpful.
Yeah, QR
With the
codes.
QR code?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh.
something that could just make it interactive on site, utilizing people's existing technology.
Wow, that's,
It's a really good idea, Ed.
That's
And that's
great.
really easy to do too.
and that can be interchangeable as well with the QR codes. You just put it on there, and then that's a really nice idea. Wow, yeah. Technologically advanced.
If only we had a web
Great.
expert.
What's that?
If only we had a web expert.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, those are all good ideas. Really good.
For now, I mean, we have to still, nothing's gonna happen overnight, and we still have to talk about it and then run it by everybody else.
I think one of the other issues is there was so much of the landscape herbicided at this point. There's what seed goes down now, right?
Yeah, seed will have to go down. A lot of seed will have to go down there.
All right, so that's going to be a rough patch for the neighbors, I think.
So, yeah, so actually, are there any plugs left to plant, Agnes?
Yes,
So I kind of had an idea about this because, when you see it, it looks pretty crappy for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
mm-hmm,
But kind of like, when they clear cut a forest, they leave the trees right next to the road so you don't see the clear cut. And I was wondering if we planted, instead of like we did these big sections,
mm-hmm.
we planted like along the periphery and then seeded behind it. So at least you get some plants growing like in front, and then everything kind of comes up behind it over the next year or two or three. At least they see something coming in, that being the plugs. And it's just maybe a different concept of how we go about planting these areas now. That can be done in any area where you kind of stretch it out, stretch what we have with plugs, and then back plant it with the seed. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think that's a very interesting suggestion, and it reminds me of something that Rick McAnlis told me at one point, that the peripheries and the borders are what people see, I think that's a great idea. I don't know how much we have left, but I can look at inventory. Then we also have to remember that the plants that go right next to the road have to be a little bit more salt tolerant too. So
Right.
We'll see how that goes. I'm a little concerned about that too, the salt tolerance.
Well, it's not only next to the road, but it's also, say, along like the walking path line too.
Okay,
So it kind of will delineate that early on as the seed comes in behind it.
okay,
That's a great idea, John.
yeah,
Just an aesthetic idea, maybe to help that transition when everybody's going to be calling it weeds.
Yeah, I like that idea too. And there's certain plants that are really fast and showy, like, black-eyed Susans or Monarda that come in just so quickly. They add color. People like them. And frankly, they're so easy to grow that if they were to be damaged by the salt, they served their purpose while they were there.
Definitely.
Right, and Seth, you're spot on. I've talked to Agnes about this several times because brown-eyed Susans come
Black-eyed
in,
Susans.
black-eyed Susans come in really, really easily from seed. So
Just like you
making
said,
sure
yeah.
that we have a lot of that in the mix of the stuff that we put down,
Well,
for sure.
but so I don't have any of those species left to plant as plugs, but we can make it an effort to make sure we seed a periphery border because they come in the very first year. So when we're putting down our seed, and I'm saying we can do plugs too, but also make sure that when we're putting down seed in that area, we put a buffer strip of Monarda and black-eyed Susans and those things right along the trail and along
Yeah.
the road and sort of delineating that area.
It's great. Love it.
But I'll take inventory and let you guys know. I know we still have a lot of drop seed and little blue stem that we could put in,
Okay.
at least.
Yeah, there's a bunch of second and third year plants here too that might be appropriate to put in. We'll see. Okay.
Also too, now, can you guys hear me?
Can't hear you, Ed.
All right, I don't know.
Oh.
My microphone is on.
Maybe you could use your phone.
Or talk right into the microphone.
No,
Yeah, I don't hear him at all
nothing.
now.
Can you hear me now?
Very
Yeah.
faintly.
All right, so my one suggestion is to learn from our lesson back from the,
it's not working.
Sorry, Ed.
is this any better?
Where's your microphone?
It's in my headphones.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
that's why.
Oh, maybe hold it right up to your mouth.
Mouth.
Well, not,
Yeah, there you go.
all right, so I think
No.
No,
Mm-mm.
so
you could type things.
yeah, I type worse than this.
It's like in and out. Yeah, just-
Maybe use the chat function, Ed.
Or call, but use your phone.
Hear me swearing at all?
No, it sounds like you're in a submarine somewhere.
Leave and come back.
Okay.
all right.
Okay, he's gone now.
He's gone, but maybe he'll come back in a different way. We'll see.
All right, let's move on.
For now, yeah, until he comes back.
Good.
Anything else about until Ed comes back for now? No.
Are we done with the lake, guys?
I think so, right?
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the prescribed burn and the permit renewals. We do have the permit, just came in Wednesday. So that's in place, everything's lock, stock, and ready. I will redo the request for city council and park district to approve it. And we'll get those onto their agendas as
Ed's
soon as
back.
possible. Okay, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, can you hear me okay now?
It's a little better if you lean in.
I don't know what to, I'm leaning into the mic. I'll just speak really loud because you're long distance. I was just suggesting that we go back to the lesson we learned at the Prairie about pre-educating residents around there as to what to expect. So in terms of
What about educating residents?
yeah, outreach and education ahead of time, so that they know in advance there's going to be this awkward adolescent stage first.
You're done, Ed.
He said education and outreach ahead of time.
Yes.
Which is,
Can you do charades, Ed? I would suggest, Ed, maybe you could tap in on your phone line and mute your computer until then, I think we got to move on.
Yeah. Okay, so Dana has worked on that permit and it's been approved and it's really great for all of the areas. So anytime we want to burn between now and springtime, all of the areas have been approved out of the burn permit. So we're
Awesome.
ahead of the game and everything's ready to go whenever burn season comes along.
Nice job.
Right, so the only thing that's lacking, of course, is the permission from the city and from the park district. So I'll put those requests together and we'll have Peter get them onto the agendas.
Dana, if I may, when do you think you're going to be burning?
November.
November?
Okay, so we got time. Okay.
Yeah, we got lots of time. We're way out in front of this one, Peter. Unlike every time before.
Thank you very much. That helps a lot.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, that's all I got for burn permits.
Okay.
Site monitor reports from commissioners. Any questions on the reports?
Well, I only, I submitted mine for the Remnant Sedge Meadow, and Peter did for the Nature Preserve, but I haven't heard from anyone else. So if you can send me those by the time I do the minutes, so I can include them, and then if you have questions on those reports, we could cover them at the October meeting.
Did you get my?
Just put down mine as status quo for Heron Pond.
Heron Pond?
I have one thing I'd like to mention about all our areas. I'm sorry, Seth, if I cut you off.
Sure.
The path, I walked through the Nature Preserve at Morava today, and so the path is looking good. It's a little overgrown just leading into it. That's standard stuff. But when we build the path, we trench out either side of it so water runs off into the trenches. And I don't know, someone's putting timber or logs into those trenches, and it's really designed to be open so that water flows in there. So, so just moving ahead, I don't know if anybody is doing that or whatever, let's try to keep those clear. And then when I go through there again, I'll clear them out. I'll bring a shovel or something. But so we keep the timber and the 4x4s and stuff out of the trenches that are alongside of the paths. It just helps keep the path itself then dry. And then secondly, I'm reading a very good book right now. It's called The Overstory. It's a tree book. But one of the things that they harp on is the dead material in the forest and how it's so essential to everything else that goes on. And I know we had made mention of maybe felling some trees and stuff in the slough this fall, and maybe some other areas, but it'd be really good instead of, say, burning or moving some of these logs and timber out of these areas, we leave a little more and let that do what it needs to do as far as the insects and the fungus that's so key to the whole ecosystem. And I think sometimes maybe we take that for granted. I know we do leave what we can, but I think it could probably use a little more in some of these areas. And then that extends also, I think, to the lake, say when some of these shoreline trees or shrubs need to come down, it'd be great if they fell into the lake and stayed there.
I agree about that for sure. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, the one we've already plopped down in there, it's wonderful. I mean, the green heron lives there. I mean, on that dead buckthorn that we fell into. I mean, he's there every day.
wow.
The bird was never there before. So then not to mention all the turtles and frogs and all the little fish fry that are in there as well. So just an additional comment on that about the dead material. It's really a crucial part, and we need to leave, I think, a little more of it around.
I don't know if anybody, Seth probably saw it at Seed Collection on Wednesday, but there's a
Huge snag.
huge snag that came down at the slough just
A couple weeks ago.
east of the sign, and it's falling into one of the plantings, but It's a big one. So that's, some of that could certainly go that direction in the winter, but that's a real winter workday project.
Yeah, and we have been leaving a lot of snags, I feel like, but maybe we just need to cohesively try to. We can make piles too, which are good for habitat.
Well, Peter and I were talking about this during seed collection, that there's a lot of snags at the slough that probably, for safety reasons, need to come down. And so I think that's something we need to evaluate this winter for sure.
Well, if we bring them down, we should fell them in a right direction, and then I would suggest leaving them down and leaving them there instead of cutting them up like we do. And let them be a nurse log, you know. I mean, it's needed. The other thing about the slough trail is where it branches off from the hillside portion into the wetland area and across toward the shelter. There's another little branch that kind of goes out by the sign, and that was really nice. And the problem with that trail though is it goes nowhere. It just stops out there, and there's no outlet for it. So
No.
one thing, if we do another workday there, I think it'd be good to just open that up and make it come out somewhere so that there's some
Yeah.
continuity to it.
John, the origin of the, just so you know, the origin of that little spur of the trail was a recommendation from Mark Roscoe as an alternative to going through the basin when it's flooded. His suggestion was to bring that trail up higher and then parallel Elmhurst Road so that if it was flooded, people could take that trail and get around it. But that's as far as we got last winter.
Right, we just
Yeah, I
never
remember.
finished
Yeah,
it.
that was a great suggestion, and I think it's another. You know, it adds another like 100 yards or something to the trail there,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and it's a nice little area that's coming too. So,
Right.
so
Definitely,
we can
work
easily
day.
extend that and make an outlet for it.
yeah, great,
Okay.
great idea.
Is that the trail by the slough or in the nature preserve that we're talking about?
Now we're talking
slough.
about the slough, right behind the sign there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about the nature center. Those logs, John, I don't know who's been moving those logs around. Even at the top there, someone has
Right.
put some really big logs right in the main access to the trail there. So I don't know who does that or why they're doing that, but yeah, that needs to be corrected and open up. They're almost too big for one person to move.
Yeah, I noticed that
hard.
today, and I was gonna actually, I ran out of time, but I was gonna go back and grab them. But yeah, they're stacking up back there, and when I get back, I'm leaving for a week, but when I get back, I can take care of that.
Yeah, they're pretty big. But you know, another comment on the dead trees. There's a lot of them that should come down. They're hazardous in the nature preserve, and you know, we're kind of encouraging people to walk through there. And I'd hate to see a branch or a tree fall on someone. So it really is a safety and a danger concern of
I think
mine.
they should come down, but I think they should lay on the ground, Peter.
I agree completely. Just get them down so they're not going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Is my audio any better?
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
All right, so that's another thing I think we should just add to the public education as well, so that when they see, I think there's a common misperception that when you see fallen trees, that they're just not, you know, it's not being actively maintained, and to let them know there's a reason why they're there. So I don't know if that can be incorporated again into any expansion that we do or anything later
Sure.
to include that in our public outreach.
yeah,
We could have a stick with a sign on the tree saying, "This is why I'm down on the ground," or something. You
I
know?
like that, Jill.
Yeah.
I love it.
oh, I like that.
Yeah. I'm not sick, I'm just dead.
Stop.
And for a cause.
Oh, I love it. That's a great idea, Joe. Tag him and bag him.
Oh my goodness. Well,
While we're talking about extending a path, do we want to extend the path and have an outlet for the one on Marion that goes north of the street sign?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it was a trail, but it got demolished. But yes,
And it doesn't,
by the cardinal flower.
right, it doesn't have an out, sort of.
It doesn't. It did when we created it a couple of years ago, but that's definitely a workday event. Yeah. And I think it would be good to place those, if we could, with the manpower, to place some of those large fallen snags maybe along the path, because we keep moving those smaller logs. They keep washing away with the floods. If we could have them more strategically placed.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I can just add for the monitoring port for St. Al's, that's a status quo as well.
Okay, thank you.
Jill, did you get my one for the last, came a couple of days after the last meeting?
Yes, that I have. That's in, that was in the minutes.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Seth.
Okay. Anything else about the monitoring reports then?
My update on the prairie is that it's still all yellow and not purple.
Okay, it'll be purple soon.
The asters are slowly coming.
All right, Poplar Creek Prairie Seed Collection Days. I have not reached out yet. We usually participate in those seed collection days, and I know that they will be socially distanced, and it would be nice to participate in those. So I will reach out to them and then let you know when we could do that, because they have a couple of species that we would be really interested in.
Those are, she's talking about the annual event where,
No, I'm talking about the seed
yeah,
collection
where we're
days.
invited out
Right.
there to collect seed.
On 1 or 2 days, they've invited us to collect as much seed as we'd like.
Mhm.
And so then we just have our regular volunteers. It's usually an extra day than our work days. And we've collected, I mean, just an incredible amount of seed from those days. So I'll let everybody know. I'll reach out this week. Okay. Annual seed processing volunteer appreciation event.
Okay, so as we have discussed, what we're going to do with seed processing this year is we're not going to do the major event where we have a combination of potluck, seed processing, and volunteer appreciation day. We're going to postpone the volunteer appreciation day until sometime when we can either figure out how to get together to do it. There was talk about doing it as a Zoom event, and I think the sentiment was not to do that. The plan for processing the seed is, as seed is dried and ready to be processed in smaller batches, Agnes is going to let us and the regular volunteers know in a smaller scale, and people would just come over and then either work outside or work in the garage with 2 or 3 people. And so we'll process as the seed is ready to be processed, as opposed to saving it all up and creating one giant event. So much like we did with early spring work here at the SLU, we'll just define an event and ask people if they want to show up, monitor how many show up, and then we'll process whatever is available on that day. So by the end, when we would normally have all the seed processed and start putting the mixes together and start putting stuff into the greenhouse germination trays, we should still be on target for that, I think, time-wise, right?
Mhm.
So we don't lose anything there. So
And what I can do too, when we have a very nice day outside during even one of our volunteer work days, I can just bring a couple of trays and have a couple of volunteers processing seed, and we can rotate and be socially distanced.
And I wouldn't mind working the afternoon of a volunteer workday either. Just have that as an extra activity. If
Sure, okay.
you're up for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like whatever anybody can do whenever they can, and
Yeah.
there'll be something there for them to do. So
Great.
that's the approach as far as processing the seed. As far as the volunteer appreciation award, I think everybody was more inclined to do that as a small local event somewhere, with social distancing and masks and all that stuff. So I think that's what we'll still try to do. And when a date is, we'll take a look at the calendar and see what makes most sense.
Why don't we
And-
just do it on a work day where everybody's spread out anyway?
Yeah,
We could do that.
We're all outside and, you know, it's not traditionally the way we've done it, but these are not traditional times. So I think, you know, it might be a good alternative.
Okay, yeah, let's
So-
just do that.
that's a good idea.
And Dana, I wanted to suggest doing a call out to our volunteers that assisted and stayed true during the COVID. Perhaps you could dedicate a future journal to them and actually name them by name.
That's a great idea.
Because everybody reads the journal. It's a publication. It's on our website, but just dedicate it to the volunteers and what they did for us and how much it made a difference.
I love it. Thank you.
Mhm.
I don't know if this was intentional or not, but we skipped over the seed greenhouse program item.
Oh, no, it was not intentional. So we've already collected a lot of seed and I already actually have them in the trays, especially the rare things and the early spring things. We're well on track. We're probably going to collect a little bit less seed this year, but I'm trying to really focus on the species that we need instead of just collecting a lot of seed. So trying to stay a little bit more focused with it. And especially with knowing, you know, where we're going to seed like the pollinator park, trying to focus on maybe shorter species and just collecting the things that would really go in there. But we're well on our way.
How was
Everything's drying.
How was the seed collecting last night at the slough?
It's
A
very
lot of
good.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 10. Yeah, it was really good. 10 people, about 10 people showed up. And we collected a lot of seed too. So
Yeah, we did. How many times?
I haven't calculated it, but close to 4.
That's what I said.
Well, I'll have the exact number. I just have to still put in the numbers. I haven't had time.
You know, one other thing I would recommend, whenever we refer to the seed, instead of saying how much it weighs, because it is very light and I don't think most people have a grasp of what that really means. I'm wondering if we can translate that to, we collected enough seed to grow X thousands of plants. Internally, it's nice to know the weight, but as somebody who's one of the lesser experts in the commission, when I hear we collected 1.5 pounds of seed, I'm like, what were you guys doing? You know, to me, it just doesn't sound like a lot, but when somebody knows what that represents, that's
Volume
what
with
I think is impressive.
Okay.
So I don't know, are you able to estimate that, Agnes, or calculate it?
Something you got to think about, I think. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we just collected different types of seed for different areas. I mean, from what we collected yesterday, you could probably seed a 20 by 10 foot section, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to like really look at it again and
Yeah,
look at the
well,
seed.
it's just a suggestion. And
And then weights, you know, weight is different too with seeds. Like yesterday, some of the seed was wet, so it's not really an accurate
yeah,
estimate either, you know. And then some seeds are so tiny that like 1/10 of an ounce is 1,000,000 seeds, and other seeds are large. So, you know, a pound of that seed really isn't a
200.
lot at all. It could be, you know, 1,000.
again, and that gets to my point. It's, you know, again, if it's not hard to do, to kind of just estimate, hey, this represents, you know, 40,000 plants, even though it's a 1/4 ounce.
Right. Okay. I'll when we do that next, I will let you know.
Go ahead.
Okay. So then we had the seed pressing volunteer appreciation. Did we miss anything with that? Any other comments about the volunteer appreciation event?
No, I think we all know who the nominee is, and I'll go ahead and process the golden loppers for that event. So it's
Just a matter of timing.
just a matter of timing. I think probably we'll look at the first workday in November, which would be, hold on, I can tell you. The first workday in November is the 4th.
Maybe. Okay, so we'll see. We'll keep in touch about it.
And that's the weekend we set the clocks back too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that volunteer is present too.
Right.
Mhm.
To notify everybody. Okay. All right. So then next is the treasurer report and 2020 budget. I don't think.
I sent the I sent the report out about an hour before this meeting. I apologize for that. I don't know if Patrick has it available to show.
No, I'm sorry, John. I don't have it this time.
All right, that's okay. Thanks, Patrick. Basically, it's the same as last time. We're out of money for the main budget. We've spent it all, but that's okay. We've gotten everything we've needed thus far, and so there's a separate budget for the Pollinator Park, and we haven't spent anything more out of that either. So we're pretty well set with that. There's been no other major expenditures that I'm aware of anyway. Dan and Agnes, do you know of anything
Nothing else.
that hasn't hit the books yet?
No, nothing at all.
Mm-mm.
So there's really no change from last report then.
All right.
It's in your email.
Yeah, we printed out. We're looking
Got
at
it. All right, good. good.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, then next is city civic meetings and NRC representation.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I've been regularly attending the city council meetings. Sometimes I can't stay the full time, but I am there and I am listening. I did attend the Park District Board meeting of August 25th. The only thing is they went into executive session. They were almost in there for a full hour and I couldn't stay. I'm waiting for the minutes of the meeting. But they did bring up the Lexington Homes project proposal for landscape architect for the Mirror Park planning development. They also mentioned an intergovernmental agreement between the library and Park District for the joint operation and maintenance of an electronic messaging center. So I thought that was interesting. But I wanted to hear more about Muir Park, but they went into executive session. But I just wanted to make you aware, I'm trying to attend some of the city meetings. The Willow Road Ad Hoc Project, they haven't met since February. Camp McDonald Creek Commission hasn't met since many months, but that's where we're at.
Okay, cool.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jill.
Jill.
Really appreciate that. I know that that's,
It's a burden.
no, it's a lot of time.
It
but
is.
we
It's a
really
burden time.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Not a big deal.
Okay, good.
Okay, so then any announcements to the public? We do not have any.
I have one that I wanted
Okay.
to. There was an article that I was reading recently that said that in all of North America, there are approximately 700 bird species. And in all of North America, there are approximately 750 butterfly species. And in moth species, there are about, in North America, 11,000.
Wow.
So we do, we have a lot of people who are big appreciators of birds, of course, in America, and people love the beauty of butterflies. And somehow moths get a bad name, maybe because they eat sweaters and things.
It has something to do with your sweater.
No.
But there's 11,000 compared to 700. 11,000
Crazy.
moths. And there's an article that I can send to Jill to put in the minutes about it. But they talk about, it's kind of late in the year, but they talk about, one thing you can do is go in your backyard and at night. One of the big differences between butterflies and moths is, people have different, perhaps misconceptions or maybe not about the differences between butterflies and moths. But and there's a lot of generalities, but one generality is that moths tend to be more active during the day. Sorry, butterflies tend to be more active during the day and moths tend to be more active at night. And one activity you can do is go out at night and just hang a white sheet with a light, and it will attract the moths and then you can look at them, and they have beautiful colors, just like butterflies. Actually, you can find in our area, there's absolutely beautiful moths that you'll find that are just as pretty as some of your favorite butterflies.
Yeah, we had one in the house a couple days ago. It was amazing. The underside, the top of the wings was like camouflage. Underneath was just unbelievable.
Colorful.
Yeah, you can get great colors. So it's just another way to appreciate nature right in our own backyard.
It's really nice. Maybe we could put a little article about that.
Sure.
I mean, I love that. And it's something that the family can do together too. Like go out right when it gets dark, especially now, right around this time where things are not yet gone for the summer and still out there. It gets dark a little bit later and you can do that and look and appreciate them.
We just leave our back door open at night and all the moths come inside. It's great.
Okay.
It's just hard to get them back out.
Wonder how many species of mosquitoes there are.
Yeah.
They get a bad rap.
Okay. All right, then I think we're done. We don't
Any
mind.
visitor comments?
I have just one other thing, and I could put this in an email. I don't want to give it away. I'm a Hallmark ornament collector, and I discussed this with Dana and Agnes.
Oh, yes.
We have a special gift for Mary Lou. I don't want to give it away. I'll put it in an email, but Dana and Agnes, I plan on bringing it on this Saturday because
Okay, cool.
the one 2 weeks from now, the bird walk is canceled. We want her to have it in time, but she's been with us doing this now for 5 years. I thought it was a nice way to commemorate her dedication and enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's really
Really
amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So anything else? Any other comments? No? Okay.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.